Hey guys, it's that guy that looks like a combination of your distant cousin and one of those, fake glasses, mustache, nose things that you can used to buy at the dollar store. So today what we're going to do, we're going to use this article that I found on Forbes.com that details the 10 safest cities in the United States. And I was curious, how much does it cost to buy a house in each one of these cities? And is it affordable? Why I want to do this is maybe you're looking to buy somewhere in the US and you're like, hey, where should I live? And you're trusting a random YouTuber to give you that info. So here I am. Or also, I want to be able to break down exactly how I'm going to determine this. And maybe you can get that and apply it to your situation, because maybe you're not looking at the top 10 safest cities in the US, but maybe you're looking for 5 areas around you and you're breaking down, like you have it narrowed down to 4 or 5 zip codes or 4 or 5 cities, and maybe you can follow along with the exact process. For starters, let's look at this wonderful list that I'm sure is not biased at all. Number 1 safest city is Columbia, Maryland. We have Nashua, New Hampshire, Laredo, Texas, Portland, Maine, Warwick, Rhode Island, Yonkers, Gilbert, Arizona, Burlington, Vermont, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Lewiston, Maine. I apologize for any butchering. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these cities and we're going to put them in Zillow. So Zillow has this great tool. I think the URL is zillow.com/home-values. So let's put here Columbia. So that gives me the average home value of $472,229. Surprisingly, 2% increase over the last years. So here we have the 10 prices, or the average prices according to Zillow in these specific cities. Now keep in mind, this is average. Like I know here, I live here in Arizona and I sell a lot of houses in Gilbert. I know for sure the cheapest house is not for $547. You can get something there maybe mid 400s. What we're going to do next is we're going to get the price range and we're going to get a mortgage calculator. In this specific case, we're using the mortgage calculator as part of my home buying resources you can access on Patreon. Now you don't have to use this. You can use another mortgage calculator anywhere, but we're going to basically put all this information into a price range. We're going to do an average interest rate of 6.5%, average property tax rate of 5%, insurance average of $1,500 a year, and about a PMI a monthly of $100 a month. And we're going to put them each one into the calculator, and we're going to spit out what the monthly payment will be on average for each one of these payments. So here are the estimated payments for each one of these price ranges. So now we have our price ranges, we have our estimated payment, but what do we need to make a year or a month to be able to afford buying a mortgage here? Well, here's what we're going to do. There's several schools of thoughts to follow. Let's break it down in 3 very simple, easy to follow. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of things out there that you could follow, but I've basically come to love 3 of them, right? 3 of them that are the most simplest things that you can calculate at the top of your head to just give you a ballpark idea if you're good or not. Number 1, which we're going to start with, are more conservative numbers. Now, it's worth mentioning that one of the most popular financial people out there in the budget space is Dave Ramsey. And he recommends, from what I've seen, your monthly payment shouldn't exceed over 25% of your net income. However, he says that you should be getting a 15-year mortgage with that. So, for example, if we were to get a house, let's say we're buying a $400,000 house, that means, and we're not doing 30-year, we're doing a 15-year. Yes, the interest paid is significantly lower. We can see here the difference is you're paying $484,000 in interest over 30 years versus 15 years. You're only going to pay $186,000. Like, you're saving a significant amount of money, but your monthly payment's going to be way higher, $3,700 versus $2,800. So I'm not here to debate whether it's good or not good, but we have to acknowledge that is the golden standard that might be brought up to you. Okay, but here you go. The conservative route the number 1 that I recommend is going to be 25% of your net. Nice and flat. Now this is based off a 30-year mortgage, unlike the Dave Ramsey rule, but this should be put you in a good spot. And we're using your net income because we're calculating what you're actually bringing home, right? So that way it leaves you with 75% of your monies to do whatever else you want. You can save aggressively. You can hopefully maybe only use the other 25% to live, and you're technically saving 50% or investing 50% of your income. And if you're not here, don't make yourself feel bad. If one thing I always push to people is, let's be careful of that self-punishment, self-shame cycle that we put ourselves when it comes to money. Let's not make ourselves feel bad because we can't do that. But of course, work hard to get to that point where you can get to this conservative route. The middle tier route, which a lot of people buy, and that's okay, is going to be 33% of your net income. Now, this is not one that I've seen out there. This is one that I've kind of just developed just on my own, being in charge of my family's finances, right? And I've always told myself, if I can at least with a third of my income pay my mortgage, and I can live off the other 2/3 of my income, and I'm okay. So if your mortgage payment is a third or 33% of your net income, it does not exceed that, you would not be considered house broke with the second rule. And the third rule, of course, is one that you see everywhere. The 28% gross or 36% net rule, which let's just call it 28% gross. What should happen here is you should see a pretty easy scale of like the super cheap payment. I personally used to push this one all the time, but really gross is something that's kind of be careful, because if you're basing your budget off what you're like making but not taking home, it's just a little nerve-wracking to me. But if you have to push it, I would say pushing it like around 28% of your gross income, it would be acceptable. Here is based off of a $120,000 gross monthly income. I think I used this for a previous video, and I still have it here on my in the handy dandy calculator. So based off 120 gross income, 91,000 net income, this is how it looks like. So we're gonna do our really safe number, which is 25% of your net, just right number, which is 33% of your net, and the tight number is actually 28% of your gross. Really tight, I don't even know why I put it. I should get rid of it. It's like 30% of your gross, but really you see that this should be a pretty easy scale to follow here. As long as you're in that range, there's a mosquito here. As long as you're in that range, then it's acceptable. So now, all that to say, how are we going to find out each one of these cities' average? Well, we're going to use the 33% net rule, okay? So here's the thing. We're going to do some algebra here. I'm sorry. I wasn't good at algebra either. My wife is the math whiz, not me, but we're going to do this, okay? So this is 33% of our net. If we're buying this within reason, within a safe budget, this monthly payment should be 33% of our net. So based off of that, what we can do is we can get this number, multiply it by 3, which will technically get 99%. But we're just going to be okay with that. Get this and multiply it by 3. That should be our monthly monthly net income that we should be making. Luckily, the Google Sheets will do the math for us. And there you go. Monthly net income. That's how much you should make. And so then we apply that and we say, okay, well, what would have to be our annual net income to get there? Well, now, if you're a smart boy or girl, you're following along, they know we're going to get this number and we're going to multiply it by 12. And here we have the annual net income that we need to essentially be making to afford in these areas. I want to take a quick minute to thank our partner, homeandmoney.com/Javier. If you're looking for an agent anywhere in the country and you want to be paired with someone that doesn't suck butt, this is where you got to go, homeandmoney.com/Javier. You go, click the link, you look at my pretty picture with pretty Wally there on the side, you fill out some details, and within minutes, well, as long as it's relatively normal time and not doing it at 3 a.m, you'll be connected with an agent anywhere. And these guys and gals have been vetted. They're not going to suck butt. They're going to be great. So you go ahead, get them started, go homeandmoney.com/Javier. But this is just our net income. When we're talking about actual salary, like what do I make a year, we use our gross. So what we're going to do is, on average, the net income is about 75% of your gross income. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little calculation to figure out, okay, if this was 75%, what would be 100 of it? To kind of put things in perspective, that's the money you need to be making to be safe in the United States. How insane is that? Don't even think about being safe unless you're making close to $100,000. Absolutely absurd, right? But now here's a crazy thing. So basically, for how they qualify you is they get 50% of your gross monthly income. And then from that number, they subtract any potential monthly payment. So basically, if we get this number, your estimated payment, multiply it by 2, and you have no debts, that's the income you need to be making. There's a difference between what you can qualify for and what you can afford. What you can qualify for is technically 50% of your monthly gross income, because that's what the lenders use as a basis to qualify you. 50% of your gross income, and they subtract any monthly payments on your debts. So with relatively no debts, you would only need this annual gross income to qualify for that house. But when we're looking at budget, when we're looking at what we can actually afford, that's a complete different statistic that the lenders are not using. This is something that you need to have a general knowledge of. So to qualify for a house in these areas, this is what you need. To afford in these areas, this is what you need. So how many people are buying in these cities, you think, that are closer to here than here? We did look at the median income being around $70,000. So this is a dangerous trap you might find yourself in. You might find yourself being able to qualify for a house in a very relatively safe city. But the reality is, can you afford it? I can see how many people are taking that chance of saying, you know what, this is half of my income, but I'm just going to live in a safe city for my family. And it's really heartbreaking that they're putting themselves in a terrible budget or terrible financial position where one emergency can completely derail them. So please, 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 if you're making your decision, that's fine, but try and see. You don't have to be in the top 10 safest cities. Maybe you can find something relatively safe. Maybe it's a little different. I don't know. All I'm here is to pack you with knowledge so you can make the best decisions for yourself. So let me know what you guys think. Are you as heartbroken as I am? Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate you. It's now probably baby feeding time for me, so I got to go feed the baby. See you guys.